You've seen both. Real cheese on a hot burger slides into a greasy, stringy puddle, but a processed cheese slice? It goes soft and gooey and smooth, and it never seems to split or turn oily. So, people assume real cheese melts and processed cheese somehow doesn't. Here's the twist. That's not quite what's happening. Processed cheese absolutely melts. It just melts in a completely different way thanks to one clever ingredient. To understand melting, you need to know what cheese actually is. At its core, cheese is a network of proteins. It's mainly one called casein, with fat and water trapped inside it. Think of it as a protein mesh holding liquid. If you've seen the egg or gelatine videos, this'll feel familiar. It's a protein mesh holding liquid. Same big idea. But here's the crucial detail for cheese. Those casein proteins are held together largely by calcium. The calcium acts like glue, linking the protein strands into a connected structure. It's the skeleton of the cheese. That calcium glue is what gives cheese its body. It's holding the whole network together. So picture it. Protein strands bonded by calcium with fat and water tucked into the gaps. Hold on to that calcium glue, because it turns out to be the single most important character in this story. Everything about how cheese melts, smoothly or messily, comes back to what happens to that calcium. Now heat real cheese. At first, everything goes right. The fat melts and the protein network loosens its grip. That's the good melt, gooey molten cheese, but natural cheese's calcium network is temperamental. Push the heat too high or too fast and the network breaks. The proteins clump up and contract. As they squeeze together, they force the melted fat and the water right out. That's the greasy puddle. That's the oil slick pooling on your pizza, the stringy clumps sitting in a slick of fat. The cheese has split. It's separated into clumped protein on one side and leaked fat and water on the other. It's no longer one piece. And that fragility, that tendency to break under heat, is exactly the problem processed cheese solves. It was invented to fix this specific molecular weakness in natural cheese, and it does it brilliantly. So, what makes processed cheese so smooth and unbreakable? One category of ingredient, emulsifying salts. Things with names like sodium citrate, and what they do is genuinely elegant at the molecular level. Remember the calcium glue holding the proteins together? Emulsifying salts pull that calcium out. They grab the calcium and swap in sodium instead. And that one molecular swap changes everything. Freed from the calcium glue, the casein proteins relax. They are no longer locked into a rigid network. They spread out and start wrapping themselves around the fat droplets, holding everything together. This creates a stable, even mixture, an emulsion. Fat and water are now bound together permanently. So now when you heat processed cheese, there's no fragile calcium network to break. It stays uniform. It melts into a uniform, glossy, stretchy goo, and it stays that way. It simply won't split. It won't go greasy, because the very thing that makes natural cheese break has been deliberately replaced. So let's settle the question. Does processed cheese not melt? No, it melts beautifully. The difference is how. Natural cheese melts, but its calcium network is fragile and can split into grease and clumps. Processed cheese has had its calcium swapped for sodium, so it melts into a smooth, stable emulsion. Which is why it's used where you want a reliable, silky melt every time, like in sauces and burgers. It's not better or worse, it's engineered for a different job. It's built for consistency. And to round it out, some cheeses, like halloumi and paneer, barely melt at all when heated. They're made in a way that gives them an especially heat-stable protein structure that resists flow. So, melting isn't one thing. It's a whole spectrum, and it all traces back to that protein network. And here's the bigger lesson. Processed has become a dirty word, but look at what processing did here. It identified the exact molecular reason natural cheese breaks, the calcium glue, and re-engineered it. That's not magic, and it's not sinister. It's applied chemistry, solving the problem of a smooth melt. Once you know that a cheese slice is just cheese with its calcium swapped for sodium, you understand it. And that is the whole point. If you want more food chemistry taken apart like this, subscribe. I'll see you next time.